Hi guys, Beyond Reason, David Stone here. Religion, part 2. I've watched, listened to, heard the podcasts of umpteen apologists, and they seem to take two kind of paths. One is the path of kind of Yahweh, the nameless. God isn't actually nameless. God is the supreme being, all-powerful, all-knowing, ever-present, has no past, has no future, has no cause, has no effect. Isn't really gendered. You can't say he. Doesn't really interfere with men, humankind, I mean. And it's unknowable. Therefore, you can't question this supernatural being. And you can't literally divine the purpose of his, her, its creation of the world and the universe and everything. So that's like a way of just shutting down the conversation by saying it's all too big. All you can do is try and infer from either the words of prophets or from divine inspiration or something, but in the main part it just shuts down the conversation and just says we don't know. It's quite close to the Spinoza idea of God, which I'm quite attracted to, which is really to say it's all a bit of a mystery. We don't really know what it is. Call it nature if you like. You know, it does the same job. It's a placeholder for a lot of stuff that goes on, most of which we don't understand, and most of which we probably never understand. Then there's the other branch of apologetics, which looks at scripture and tries to, as it were, use the Old Testament and New Testament or the Quran or whatever the sources as evidence of the divine. Now the first one I find interesting, but just totally speculative. It's like, it's all too much. There must be something beyond us to account for that. Let's call that God. The second one I find really obnoxious because it looks at texts which are inherently contradictory and tries to wheedle itself around the contradictions. In the Bible, for example, the clear injunctions from a very angry, rapacious, jealous God to basically mass slaughter and genocide of thousands of men, women, children and animals. I think it was the Macadites or Canaanites or something, I can't remember the one, where the Lord compels the Jews to slaughter every man, woman and child and animal and beast. And in other parts of the Bible you find justifications for slavery and for anti-homosexuality and for the stoning of women, for adultery, all sorts of just horrible stuff which the apologetics try to apologise for or to account for and justify. And some of it, the justification is to say that this is metaphorical, it's not meant to be literal. But some of the more kind of like aggressive apologists will say it's literally true. It was right for the time, and we have to make adaptations for the current time, but it was right for the time. That, you know, if a man lies with another man, you can stone him. One apologist I heard the other day said God is not against homosexuality; he's just against the act of buggery. Right? Okay. So it's your behaviours that are condemned, not your sexuality. Just bizarre. Anyway, in the midst of all of this, we've got to try and make sense of it, I think. And I struggle, and the start of my struggle, I have to say, because I used to go to Sunday school, and I was quite a timid, kind of like believer. I liked the songs, I quite liked the company, I liked some of the prayers. You know, I didn't have like an inbuilt hostility until I read Job, and I thought, hold on a minute, this is key. Some apologists will say that God having a conversation with Satan or the devil is perfectly fair, because in one iteration of the Bible or interpretation, the devil was like God's servant. And when God wanted to do bad shit, he got this angel, this fallen angel, in some accounts, to do his hard lifting or heavy lifting around things that are pretty obnoxious. Anyway, you look at it, forget about the Trinity, transubstantiation, how you can have three things in one thing, and those internal ideas that just seem to be off the chart in terms of what we're supposed to accept. And just look at, and don't even get into you know, sin and theosophy. Look at like the awful state of the world in terms of disease, disaster, babies dying of, you know, petty infections that any supreme being could sort out, but those babies go to heaven, you know? It's just awful that you have this kind of like justification for disease, disaster, being offered by some apologists. Go back to Job. The devil says to God, yeah, Job who's got like wives and children and wealth and animals and lives a life of luxury, is an avid Christian and supporter of God, and the devil says it's only because he's got it so good. You know, if you took all that away, he'd soon stop being your best leader. And God says, well, go and try it out. And so the devil goes and takes everything away from Job. Job's wife dies, his children die, his animals die, he's got no money left. And still Job believes. And the devil goes back to God and says, yeah, okay, it's pretty amazing, but so far all I've done is taken away the stuff that makes him a wealthy man with status. What if I attack him personally? And God says, no, knock yourself out, do the best you can. And the devil goes back, and Job is infected with disease and boils and sores, and anyway, long story short, all his mates come round and say, why do you carry on believing, why do you carry on believing? And at the end of it all, Job still believes in God, and as it were, God wins the bet with the devil, and all of Job's former glories, his wealth, his wife, his kids, are restored. Now, I don't know about you, but there is and this is a bit of a segue, there is a kind of like Kantian thing here I think is really important in terms of our moral sensibilities, which is you don't treat people as a means to an end, right? You don't like abuse somebody to prove a point. And this is the reverse of that writ large. And it started my journey towards atheism because I just didn't find it credible, and I've not ever encountered any apologist who could give any credible account of the story of Job that got anywhere near satisfying my credulity.